sommes otages d'un scandale planétaire sur le réchauffement climatique. Une machine de guerre destinée à nous maintenir dans la peur. À la base, il y a les scientifiques manipulés, politisés, des conflits d'intérêts, de la corruption, des scandales sexuels, puis des politiques, qui ne servent que leur image et leur soif de pouvoir.
Full spectrum dominance, meaning revolution in military affairs, asymmetric warfare. We're now in a whole different ballgame in warfare ever since the discovery of all that can be done with electromagnetics. So full spectrum dominance, C4 is another term used, bandied about by the military. That's command, control, communications, and cyber warfare. The C4 domination of the electromagnetic spectrum, all the way from radio waves to gamma rays. And so if you look at it, our little band on the spectrum is just so tiny. What we can see, what we can perceive with our five senses. But there is so much more. And that is my hope is when I wrote the book, I wanted to, first of all, kill forever the ridiculous idea that chemtrails is a conspiracy theory. I also wanted to show how chemtrails and HAARP work together and how they each need each other. The experiments were very successful for the military. They were able to see how they should conduct their other agendas. And now we have ionospheric heaters all over the world. In fact, not just stationary. We have them on, they're mobile, and we have NEXRADs, radar installations on military bases galore around the world. So what is really being set up now with the chemtrails HAARP instrumentality, which is a global instrument, not to think Alaska anymore, what we have is a space fence. The interesting thing about all of these global instruments is how do they work together? Well, they need that grid. They need a grid upon which to build their operations, whether they're weather operations or weather warfare, whatever they are, targeting of individuals, targeting of entire cities, entire small nations. What was needed, what was essential to this space fence grid, and I call it a lockdown of the planet, was to ionize our atmosphere and keep it ionized. Now, an ionized atmosphere means it's battery ready, it's electric, it's ready to go for any military operation that there might be, including communications, but other things. I remember very well when Iran had a drought that seriously crippled the country just 3 or 4 years ago, and they came right flat out and said it was weather warfare from the United States. So it is a way to muscle countries into obedience. It is a way to threaten countries to go along with your program. It's also a way to make money, and that has to do with weather derivatives. We now have a term for what we're seeing. We're seeing the creation of disasters to make money. Mm-hmm. And I think right away of poor New Orleans and Katrina. When I saw that they bought up the National Weather Service and do the reporting for NOAA, and that Lockheed Martin forecasts modeling for the FAA, I got the picture. When Edward Snowden made the announcement of something I'd known for a decade was in place about the surveillance, that's really what the space fence is primarily about, surveillance. They want to be able to have access to anyone, anywhere, any place, anytime, 24/7. It's about AI. It's about the role of artificial intelligence in the future world that is now being constructed. So, if you can send at a frequency, you can pulse something, you can affect all sorts of things, because everything in the body, including the endocrine system, the brain, tissues, muscles, etc., everything has its own frequency. And so it's not hard to see that if you can electrify the entire environment and set up, and to do that, you need instruments around that can keep tweaking the chemtrails, the heavy metals in the chemtrails, keep tweaking them so that they're constantly ionized, constantly active. Then you can set up a world in which we are all part of that electric grid. We are part of what they love to call the hive mind. They don't have to necessarily zap our brains because of cyclotron resonance. We're resonating with whatever that pulse is in our environment. We resonate. We're built that way. We can see now what the elite are and aren't. I find that to be really positive. It may not feel good that our illusions are just falling one after the other, but this is how consciousness grows, is by releasing your illusions and confronting your time.